Hey guys, Africa, the physical geography of Africa. This is part one. There's also a part two, and then later on down the line, we'll have a human geo part one and part two. We're going to get through this. I hope you learn a little bit about it. There will be a quiz posted shortly on Edmodo. So please, please, please listen and learn something. Apply it to your knowledge. All right, apply it to your knowledge. Good things happen. Life lesson of the day. you know, don't take everything so seriously. That's a life lesson of the day. Just, relax. Roll with the punches. And we're back. Physical geo of Africa, plateaus, basins, and rivers. A plateau covers most of Africa. It's the most prominent feature there, meaning it's the most important, biggest, most widely known. It is the second largest continent, and its nickname is the Plateau Continent because plateaus are so prominent in Africa. Okay, several huge basins, which are depressions in the ground, kind of like a bowl, so to speak, in the ground. It goes flat down into a bowl of some kind. That is a basin. Each of these basins, more than 625 miles across and as much as 5,000 feet deep. So these basins are very, very large. They collect water. Rivers flow through them. A very important part of the landscape of Africa. What you're looking at here is a map of the features of Africa, and you can see the basins, the large basins, the Chad Basin, Sudan, Congo, Kalahari, all these depressions into the ground. You can do with the whole little dots here, kind of showing the depressions, and then as it elevates, you can see the ground gets a little darker in its elevation out of those depressions. Little mouse. If you can't read the top of that slide, it says rivers. The Nile River, we've talked about before. We talked about Southwest Asia and North Africa being the longest in the world, more than 4,000 miles. Travels up through Uganda, Sudan, and Egypt. More than 95% of Egyptians depend on the Nile. You saw that in the map we did today, the political map, where we colored it by population density and where people settled, and you saw the dark red along the river, showing you that most of the folks live on the Nile, and then anywhere really, most of the folks are going to live near some kind of water source. The rivers contain many waterfalls, rapids, and gorges. The more waterfalls and the rapids you have, the less useful for transportation, which makes the Congo River very difficult. It's Africa's largest network of waterways, but it's hard to transport people or goods or whatever on it because of the 32 cataracts or waterfalls. Makes it very, very impassable when you're trying to move goods if you got to go through waterfalls, every few miles or whatever. Meandering courses, meaning the rivers travel all different ways and directions with sharp turns and curves and things like that, also making transportation very difficult. So the rivers, while important to life, make some of the things like transportation and even hydroelectricity and stuff somewhat difficult because of the different shapes, sizes, speeds, and things like that of these rivers. Here's a picture of the Nile River. You can see it's pretty good width on it right there. This is the Congo River Basin. Talk about all the largest network of rivers. All these guys flow into the Congo River as it heads out to the western side of Africa into the Atlantic Ocean. Rift valleys. Rift valleys make up a lot of East Africa, and it's basically the land is pulling away from each other, making these huge cracks and indentions into the ground. The continental plates slide, pulling away. The land sinks and makes these small, little, thin valleys. The eastern part of Africa is pulling away from the rest of Africa. That's why the Great Rift Valley is over there. It stretches over 4,000 miles from Jordan, which is up in the Southwest Asia, around Israel and stuff, Iraq, down to Mozambique and southern Africa. So it's a very, very long stretch of separation between the plates underneath. Lakes formed at the bottom of these rift valleys, some very long, some very deep. Two of these lakes, very, very large. Lake Victoria, Africa's largest lake, and the second largest freshwater lake in the world. Is about 270 feet deep. And then Lake T is what I call Tanganyika. Totally butchered that in the pronunciation. What is the longest freshwater lake in the world? It's 420 miles long. Extremely, extremely, extremely long lake. And this right here is obviously a typo. It is not that deep. Here's a picture. Yeah. And sorry, I just misspoke here. This is not a typo. This is correct. Okay, parts of this lake can reach 4,700 feet deep, which is very deep. The longest freshwater lake in the world. Lake Victoria is largest in Africa. Okay, second largest freshwater lake in the world, and it's obviously not near as deep as the other. Here's a picture of these two lakes that we're speaking of. The mountains of Africa. My fault. Sorry, I went one too far there. Africa has no long mountain chains, just a few small kind of clusters. They contain mostly volcanic mountains, Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, the two most famous in Africa, Kilimanjaro being Africa's highest mountain. Other volcanic areas, Ethiopian highlands, Tibesti Mountains in Sahara, and Mount Cameroon in West Africa. The Great Escarpment in South Africa, covered in volcanic rock, marks the southern edge of the African plateau. And here's the pictures of these bad boys, Kilimanjaro right there. Minerals. Minerals make Africa one of the world's richest continents, okay, by having the resources in the ground, not used, not created to sell for profit or anything like that as a country or as individual countries or the continent, but they have the opportunity and opportunity to do so because of the riches found in the ground. Large amounts of gold, 30% of the world's, 80% of the platinum found in Africa. Diamonds as well. Tons of diamonds in Africa. South Africa is the world's largest producer of chromium, stainless steel, cobalt, high-grade steel found in Congo and Zambia. Most folks in Africa, like I said earlier, are still poor despite the wealth of minerals. Just because they have them in the ground doesn't mean they can get them out and turn them into something where they can make a profit. That's kind of the big issue. European countries try to develop African minerals for the industry in Europe, to some success, some failure. Many of the nations of Africa are slow to develop infrastructure. Many of those infrastructures are things needed to make a city or a country work in harmony. They struggle to develop these, and because of that, they can't create the industries to turn these resources into valuable products. So they're there. They just got to find a way to pull them out and create money-making opportunities for the people. That's part one of the physical geo of Africa. Part two coming up next.